Hi, everybody. Thank you, It's Nice for inviting me, and thank you, everybody, for coming in. So today I'm going to talk about how to creatively direct your AIs. And before I get to that, here's my show reel. As you can see, I usually do a lot of vertical CGI animations designed for social media. I've worked with a lot of clients in tech, fashion, and automotive industries, helping them with their social campaigns and also out-of-home digital billboard animations. But you're probably wondering, this is cool, but this is CGI. Why am I here to talk about AI here today instead? I guess it's what everybody's talking about these days, but I think, because I've always been a lazy designer, so I learned to be resourceful. And if a tool that can make the process faster and yield better result, I will use that tool instead. And I think in the recent years, generative AI has slowly matured as the tech, and in my eye, it becomes more and more as a designer's tool. And I'm also working towards to become a creative director, and I think those toolkits can really help me with my journey. So I've been doing some experiments over the last couple of months with Stable Diffusion, and here are essentially, so the process is essentially like this. I take a base animation that I made in 3D, and I feed it into Stable Diffusion, and it spits out something magical. This is an example of to let AI figure things out using the abstraction that I made. But there's also example that it can also be more literal, where AI serves as a really advanced filter in some sense. And along with those experiments came with a lot of attentions. They are good attentions, which is really moving comment, and there's also not so good attentions. So I think overall it's pretty divisive, and I'm not sure who's the real keyboard warrior here, to be honest. So in order not to be like that, I've made some design principles for myself to make me comfortable incorporating AI in my design process. So some of the obvious one, I want to sketch out the concept first, either by hand drawings or in 3D, and I gotta spend more time designing outside of AI than when using it. And I don't want to name any artists or studios in the prompts. I found that really unethical in doing so, and I will never respond to rude comments on Instagram. So with that in mind, let's dive in. How does it work exactly? Well, the actual process usually looks like this, and then this. So, oh shoot, sorry. So those are actual screenshots, by the way. And I don't want to bore everyone by going over step by step for like 5 hours. So I just want to tell you guys the general thinking process that I integrated in into my own design. And here's the list of the software that I used, since this is the most commonly asked questions. It sounds like a bunch of gibberish. So let's break down each component. In order to do that, I'll be using the new animation, this is the one that made those people leave those comments. So, I've always had this image in my mind that a hand basically tapping into a black hole, a void, and something magical, a magical plant or greenery element just comes out of it, and in the style of like, I guess, retro animations. So I made this sketch. forgive me for the disproportionate human hand anatomy. It's not the best drawing that I do, but I think this is good to give a mental image, right, of what I want to achieve. So I get to work. At first, I made this hand animation. I used a rigged hand, animated it, and then rendered it out in realistic 3D textures, right? And this is essentially the foreground. And for the background, I want to make this like really magical plant and floral elements just pops out from one point and outwards. And I go, so since I'm a lazy designer, I basically go back to an old project I used that I did and took the grass animation out, which is essentially a hair simulation. And then I pop back in with the same perspective with the hand. And this is the animation I'll be using for the base animation on the right. So now we have the animation ready. What's the next step? Now we have to basically let Stable Diffusion, which is the AI, to understand where to draw and how to draw it. And I do that by using the second component, which is called ControlNet. Essentially, I can extract from this animation with both depth map, which is, for those of you not familiar with 3D, which essentially is a map where the brightest spot represents the spot that's closest to camera, and the dark spot that's like the furthest to camera. And this will let AI know the perspective of the image, essentially the depth of the image. And there's also the line art map, which shows the outline and the contour of the image. So basically, Stable Diffusion will learn where to draw there instead. So now we have that in place. Let's have some fun with it. This is the fun part, right? So we can fit it in and then use some prompt based on this image. And here's a Dorito made out of a donut made out of Doritos, right? But we need to focus. We don't want to have too much fun, right? To focus, and we need to figure out how to make this magical plant, right? So we give it a simple prompt: exotic plants growing. We're getting close, but this is like way too photorealistic for my liking. I wanted to have like this really retro anime style, right? So I added a little bit more contexts, and there we have the image on the right. So we have the still frame. How do we want to animate it? And this is essentially where the last component come in. I used a motion module called animate diff, and essentially within it, I can keyframe not only the base animation, but also the prompt. And you can see the numbers on the left are the frame numbers, and the prompts on the right are essentially, fades into one another. So you can have a whole story to be animated with. And, now we have the keyframe prompt, but we can also have the static prompt. And this is where, we have all the styles, stylization, and more context coming that stays consistent throughout the animation. So with all those in mind, with all the four components I talk about, we can, feed this and feed into AI and then come out into something like this. Yeah, and before I show you the final animation, I want to tell you some challenges I've encountered. At first, I used smoke simulation instead, which yield good result in the other work you've seen. But I guess in this case, it's just not that good. Because I guess, with the AI tech at its current stage, sometimes it just doesn't work. For one reason or another, there's a lot of reasons. And I've also tried combining both, both the foreground and background together as one image and fit it into it. But also with the limitation of the tech right now, you can't really specify context with different region of the image, so that AI can't really understand where exactly to draw hand and plant. So sometimes the result of the plant ring isn't ideal. There's not enough floral elements that comes out in this case. And sometimes even more horrifying things happens where you can see the fingers are popping out on the plant ring, which is kind of gross. So what's the solution? Well, it's pretty simple. I just took the one, the animation, the hand that I like the most, and essentially took the alpha mask from the CG render, and I masked it out with only the hand element, and then overlaid on top of the plant animation that I like the most. So here is the result. So this is the final animation. And coming back to the software that I listed before, only the last two really involves in generative AI with prompting and all that stuff. And if you think about it, every one of them actually serves a unique purpose in the design process. It's similar to how animators would think while animating by hand. But I'm not good at that. So I came up with my own way. So what's the takeaway from this? Are we, I don't know, all gonna lose our jobs or something? Well, I'm not in a position to make the predictions. But if there's an ideal world that I will hope to live in, I would like to think that AI will continue to exist, and traditional art mediums will also continue to exist. And if we use both of them for good, both will flourish. I think it's always brilliant ideas that prevail in art and design, and AI is just another method to actualize your ideas. So in a sense, if you're a designer or college student who want to become a creative director, now you have this leverage to make yourself one. So, thank you.